Yeah, I mean, my opinion is I think early adopters are going to win out. I mean, at least you're learning, just like a model learns every day, with more data, you learn more. So hallucinations are not acceptable in any way. You have to stay grounded to that. And so amazing. My area is very grounded. And so when I get into what I'm doing in these AI solutions, we're not using the world's data. We're using very specific data sets with our customers that is, their data. And so on the other end of that, it's really grounded and locked down. And then using that same large language model, that engine against that data set can really create some very fascinating results. So
What does Windows 95 has to do with AI? Why is there a direct line from company mail paper envelopes to AI as well? And how does it all lead to a brilliant idea of a startup that potentially we should not have shared in this podcast, but built ourselves first? Welcome to another Employee Experience Labs podcast from the Munich Podcast studios. Employee Experience Labs podcasts are about HR tech, employee experience, shared services, and other interesting topics around HR at the workplace. We are currently running 2 seasons at the same time because they intersect and influence each other. One is about startups and young experience tech companies. The other season is about AI. Today's season is mainly focused around AI, but you will quickly hear that it's a lot to do with startups as well. I had the pleasure to talk to Jay Clem, an experienced technology and HR veteran in the best sense. Jay has seen it all, starting with Windows 95. And yes, him and we are outing ourselves in this podcast about how long we are already in this business. But we also talk about why we are especially excited about today and what can happen today versus what was possible when we started in this business. But before I waste more of your time, here's my conversation with Jay. Enjoy. Hi, hey Jay, it's good to see you. It has been a while that we've spoken, but I'm really excited to have you here today to talk about one of our topics of choice in the moment, AI, that many people will also talk about. But, before we go there, let's have a bit of an introduction about yourself. Who is Jay and what's your background?
Well, Volker, first, thank you for the chance to spend time with you. It sounds like a really cool audience, one of my favorite topics, and it's an honor. So thank you. So who's Jay? Jay has been in the kind of IT space for a long time. I've worked at various tech companies here in the United States, mainly West Coast, Amazon, Microsoft, so forth. I actually trained to be a lawyer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did an internship and didn't really like the work that was there. And to kind of pay for my school, I did coding jobs along the way. And then my roommate did this internship at Microsoft, or my dorm mate. And he came back and showed me this Windows 95 thing he was working on. I'm like, wow.
That dates us.
So I'm like, okay, maybe that person made the right choice. We have enough lawyers potentially. So anyway, I started flipping over and doing that and really enjoyed it. So I've been involved in all kinds of projects, was the leader of a tech company that Microsoft acquired. So I kind of joined Microsoft that way. We were a 200-person company.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, we were called Avenue A, became Aquaniv, and Microsoft bought that company. And then I've been at Microsoft for a while and looking at other things. So it's kind of fun. It's been a journey, but largely, in technology the whole time in various roles.
That's very interesting. And you know what? I didn't know, but we have something in common there. Yeah. I studied not law. I studied, business economics and social studies. But to finance my studies, I also had my own IT firm.
Oh, nice! Wow, very cool.
Yeah, this is how I did it. It was the old times of the internet when it started, and it was all new and cool. Okay, now we are dated.
Yeah, I remember one time we had a little web company we started in between, and we were trying to figure out how to monetize it. We started talking about, this was like the original websites, like way back Netscape days, right? And like, maybe we should charge by the number of bullets on the page, in text. I mean, wow. It was literally at the very start of the whole thing. So how fun. Well, good to learn about that with you.
Yeah, I actually, we sold like service packages. It's like, you have your basic page. and we
Yeah.
update it. I think we said 5 times a month we do updates.
There you
and
go.
it costs you X.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know the model. That's cool. Yeah, wow. Well, look where things have come.
Exactly. We move forward.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that's
moving a bit further forward, what were your recent roles? What is your most recent experience, the last 2-3 roles that you were doing?
Yeah. So what I've really enjoyed is employee experience. Here I work at Microsoft and led our HR system. So I had the program management team where we took care of our employees, meaning all the systems that employees interact with in the human resources, and then I also had the legal part of the company, those 2 areas. And so kind of think of me as the CIO of HR and legal in some ways. We have various teams that do all pieces. We're all kind of coming together, but that's where I spend time. And so really employee experience is something that I care deeply about. I think we had a long journey, and we're always going to be on that journey to make that experience super. So that's where I've spent most of my time. And then, of course, that now has pivoted into building AI solutions for customers. So I sit in a consulting services team. It used to be called Microsoft Consulting Services, and now it's Industry Solutions Delivery. The bottom line is being able to take some of the solutions that we built internally and package those up for customers. And so I spend a lot of time with customers and love doing that.
Amazing.
So it's been fun. It's been a long road for me, for sure, on various things, but that's largely what we do. And now with AI, kind of 2 Novembers ago, when that whole world just kind of popped up, wow, boom. Right? Just such a transformation. And so quickly pivoting to that has been really my area of focus. So I focus in on AI-centric solutions for customers, largely in the areas of HR, finance, legal, procurement. So those corporate functions.
Amazing. Let's go back to those Novembers. How did you first come in touch with AI? What was your first experience? And did you feel immediately this is big, or did you think well, let's see what's happening?
Yeah, no, I remember Volker, kind of going back in time. There's been a few moments where I really remember this kind of, step change where it had a personal impact on me. One was I remember email. I went to work for a company right out of university, and
yes,
and we had email in the university, but it was still kind of new then, and not the whole campus had it, but most people in tech did. So we did. And I came to this company, and they were mailing around paper envelopes. You'd put a document.
I remember that.
Yeah, the true distribution list, right? That's where the distribution list came from. And so you'd write your name.
Strike through and put the next one in.
Exactly. 30 people on this thing, and you'd scratch it out. And you can mail it halfway across the globe. It might take 2 weeks. Who knows, right? And then, I don't know how. I'm sure by the time that information went from person A to person Z on the list, that it was dated. So, and then here comes email. You put them all on an email. You attach your document or whatever the artifact is, and off it goes. Wow, right? That was how much. It's a multiple of improvement and productivity gain. And I remember sitting in the first Tesla and holding the first iPhone. Those are the moments. I kind of feel that way now about AI. So kind of going back, some of the things when I first experienced that was OpenAI when they first launched and getting into that model and just using it like everybody else did, and how it just caught fire and their rapid growth.
Amazing,
wow. Right? And I was working with a customer in New York, a big Wall Street firm, and we were both kind of talking about it and just some of the things they were doing, just how impactful it was just day to day. So
amazing.
That was it for me. I was hooked, and just feel like it's a really special time in technology right now.
It is. Let's jump right into Gen AI. You have, as you have said, you've experienced both, right? You have developed and implemented AI projects on one hand, but you also have run an AI tech stack. How was that for you? Did this change anything about the way you think about Gen AI, seeing those two sides, or what's your view? Yeah,
so for me, I'm really focused in on these corporate functions, as I mentioned, HR, finance, legal. And so, when you're crawling and indexing the world's data, that's when you have these large, language models, neural networks. You're building that kind of corpus of infinite data. It's one thing. And it's just mind blowing to me what you see happening. I follow people on YouTube just watching what they are doing with the, with the LLMs and stuff. It's just kind of amazing. My area is very grounded. And so when I get into what I'm doing in these AI solutions, we're not using the world's data. We're using very specific data sets with our customers that is, their data. And so the other end of that, it's really grounded and locked down. And then using that same large language model, that engine against that data set can really create some very fascinating results. And so it's always being trained by the broader set of data, but it's only pulling results back from a very specific thing. And so it doesn't go outside of those guardrails. And I think that's really important in the areas that I work in. The intelligent find and retrieve is super useful when it comes down to it. But getting to those generative examples is really where I want to see things go. So the framework is all set up. Most important is really ensuring the responsible data management, right? That you are using grounded models when you're doing things like what I work on. So we don't get to play in that broader space. We specifically and purposely stay in that swim lane.
And I think that's really important because this is the best way how to tackle things like, hallucinations, right? Because you know exactly what you have trained and it will stay in those guardrails.
That's right. Just like using the public web, Bing and Google and search, right? I mean, it's crawling the world's data. You don't have to have perfect data to get the results back. Those are consumer focused areas. When you're working on, like contracts and things where you are ingesting contract data and helping figure out, opportunities within a contract or HR data, you don't want, hallucinations are not acceptable in any way. You have to stay grounded to that. And so it's kind of a different mindset. And it's important. You can leverage the power of these models, but you really, again, that data is super important, and not wanting to kind of go outside of that is really key for us, at least the team that I'm part of.
No, I agree. When you look at your two parties that you have, the HR folks and the legal folks, who is more open to it? Who is more experimenting or willing to experiment on it?
Yeah, I think they're both conservative by nature, which is a great trait for those two functions. When I spent time with my HR colleagues at Microsoft, even early on when we were working on just improving the experience for employees, before OpenAI, now, Copilot here at Microsoft, leveraging those services, our Azure services, we use the Azure bot framework just to build some very simple bots to do things like, hey, let's do a travel letter. Someone's traveling, or excuse me, like a visa letter. I'm going to enter a country. I need to have documentation. Like very simple, semi-generative tasks. And I think when I worked with my HR colleagues, it's like, let's get this thing to be about 95% successful with one small group and just test it internally. So they were very careful before we just turned it on and see how it would fly across a big company where, Microsoft has employees in over 100 countries. We would start with one and kind of test it and get it to work. And I think that's really an important model, even though it might just be kind of intelligent FAQ answers at the start of it. We were very conservative. I think the same thing with legal too, frankly. We were talking about the big workloads they manage around contracts in particular here and other areas. You have to be conservative. And so I kind of find them both to be appropriately conservative. And, I'm always kind of pushing, let's try this out. Let's build a plan. But I really value, the rigor they put into their planning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is really important. One wrong step and you definitely have a problem, right? Either the contract is wrong, or what do you do with the employee that has the wrong visa letter and is then standing in front of authority in a foreign country? It's like, oh my God, what's happening now?
Yeah,
so
you just
have to be. Yeah,
exactly. And I think, you get excited about generative examples, but really starting them in a simple place, which is the HR professionals who are answering questions. How are, let's kind of review and bless that data set, ground it to that. And then when questions come in, maybe we could do them faster. I mean, that's kind of, again, more, say, intelligent find and retrieve, but it's going to save people time. The goal here is for the employee to get their questions answered, their tasks complete, and back to where they came, part of their day wasn't involved. I can't wait to talk to HR all day with, my, benefits question. They just want to get an answer and move on.
Exactly. And that's the good experience.
Yeah. It's like you ask it, hey, I need a travel letter or verify my employment at the company. It should be able to come back and do that. And that's a generative example. But if I ask, hey, where should I invest my 401k plan? It should not.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, exactly. And so you really, really have to ground those really lock down the use cases. And I think being super conservative and being responsible, we have a large responsible AI program here, and just stepping yourself through it is important. So go slow, even though the world's going fast, would be advice for me in that area.
And as much as I agree with that, and this is, I think, the approach that also all of the listeners should take. Jay, when you think about the coolest example that currently you would say is productized with Gen AI in the HR legal space, what comes to your mind? What is it that maybe you have done or you have seen?
Yeah, again, it's kind of fun just to see the experimentation that's going on, and I tend to follow YouTubers and things just to kind of see how they're thinking about this. I love building agents, like from a recruiting standpoint, having that intelligent agent, where there's thousands and thousands of jobs and thousands and thousands and thousands of people, really that mammoth marketplace of supply and demand. Having an agent on your behalf is super impactful. One of the examples we use in Microsoft, we have 200,000 plus employees, and they're getting in over 100 countries, so a lot of areas to cover. But when an employee in a specific country asks a question, it's going to be probably different based upon rules and regulations. So we use AI behind the scenes to help HR answer the question. And if it can't be answered kind of automatically, which a lot of them, I think nearly half of ours or higher, AI can handle and address. But even then, having that human in the loop to validate it's super important.
Yeah.
But helping them behind the scenes, kind of from all the areas that the systems that the HR professional can work with, formulate the answer and review it and send it to them is kind of a nice intermediary step. But in terms of, going back to your question, I really think I just love this, the two big areas for me are just people, talent management, specifically around recruiting. And then getting into benefits administration is somewhere I'd like to see things go. Just the amount of data and the amount of time it takes to kind of be a benefits administrator when you're working on your own claims. This takes an immense amount of time. I think AI can play a huge role in HR in both of those areas.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. Now, looking a bit up at a different side of AI, when I talk about AI, I'm thinking about, on one hand, the usefulness and the effectivity and efficiency that clearly, you have lined out, and there are cases, there are cool cases, but I believe we are still right at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, and I think this is the difficulty of being at the beginning, the cost of AI, particularly Gen AI, is humongous. I mean, there's a reason why NVIDIA was for a short time, or is again the most valuable company in the world, because they are the only ones who supply the hardware to it, right? So when you think about this, looking at your experience, how would you describe the value that Gen AI can bring, and were you able to bring the cost and value proposition into a mix where it worked out?
Yeah, great question. I'm a massive fan of NVIDIA. When you talk about the world's compute and storage, it just takes large amounts of capital, large models. OpenAI, Azure AI, leveraging those services as part of our Azure services. And then behind the scenes, sitting in Azure data centers, or other cloud providers, but when it comes down to it, NVIDIA is instrumental to all of that. They're at the heart of it with the chips they have. So it's like, wow, you sit back and look at this, and that's an immense amount of capital. And that's why I think too, you look at big search engines, and there's only a couple to crawl the world's data. There's a few, but names you've heard of, right? Yes. Google, Bing, etc. So It just takes an immense amount of resource to do that. And so I agree. Leveraging that is an important capability to be part of the many versus going to do it on your own. It's hard to even quantify. I'm not an expert in that area in any way, but when I sit back and look at it, I just realize the names and the players that are involved. We talk about scale at an infinite level and billions of dollars of investment, and leverage those models and things to drive what you need, but to set to have that end-to-end value chain. It is an incredibly capital intensive process for sure. I mean, you get into quantum computing, that's a whole nother level.
That's a whole nother,
that, right? Mapping a genome, like things that weren't possible using AI, to complete tasks like that. Like, wow. But just think about the amount of compute that is needed for that, and the chips that run it, like you mentioned again, NVIDIA, and then Microsoft. I mean, it's just all those players coming together across all the cloud players that are there, Google, Amazon, and so forth. There's lots. So I think you'll find those chips all over, and it's just an immense amount of cost for sure. So I, take advantage of it, leverage it, be a part of it, but trying to be, that's what I would just say. It's just it's a big cost, and that's just my personal opinion. No, not a company endorsed thing. It's just the way I look at it. Yeah.
And do you see use cases where you say, like, you know what, the cost that it takes for this use case, I'm able to generate as a benefit, or are we not yet at this stage where we are over that a value lever to say, like, we can utilize Gen AI in a profitable way for the end user, for the companies that are investing, particularly Nvidia? I think it's an easy yes, but for you and me.
Yeah, it's a good. These are really, really great questions. We're going to find this generative AI in everything that we do, and that sounds a little bit generic. But the applications that I use every single day to be more productive, like Microsoft Office or using an HR system or something, we're going to find that AI is going to assist in all those areas. Those SaaS providers are going to be building that in, and behind the scenes, it's probably going to flow from that same river we just talked about. But the experience you're going to have is going to likely be the application you use. I mean, I use Copilot on my phone. I also use ChatGPT directly. And behind the scenes, I have a very small understanding of the complexity that's there. So I think, it's going to just become mainstream day to day. I'm using it more and more and more to do very basic things. Like one example that I like to talk about is with my development teams, our engineering groups. Yeah. In agile methods and agile methodology, paired programming is a really important piece. The role of testing has been one that, has changed a bit over time. DevOps has kind of increased, and then the classic program manager, developer, tester model has moved to, let's have two developers, one testing the other's code. Now with AI, like with Copilot GitHub, my dev teams have AI as their true
tester.
Copilot, right? I mean, that's their tester. So you can almost double the capacity of your development teams by bringing AI in and just having them have a virtual seat at the table, looking at your code and frankly writing a lot of the code and you checking. So, that's one way where I think you can be more productive, there, right? And so that's how I like to think about how it's enhancing kind of the workforce and making you more productive. And of course, throughout Office, Microsoft Office, you see that extensively.
And I think this is an interesting one that I was also thinking about recently. It's are we thinking, how should we think about Gen AI? Is it a product or is it a feature? And I think from what you said, it's basically it's a feature. You will get it in the product you are potentially using today, like Microsoft Office. I mean, who's not using that, right? Or maybe you use it in your search engine. Versus it's a product and you are buying or investing in a Gen AI and try to do something with it. When I interpret what you said rightly, you are in the former camp. AI is a feature to improve existing technologies, accelerate things, come up with new ideas in existing technologies, versus it's a product separated and you need to figure out what to do with it. Am I right? Or how do you see that?
I see it the same way. I mean, I think it's a capability. It's a set of features. And like, for example, my team built out a solution where we ingest large, we're working in the legal space. And so we'll work with a company's kind of core contract system. We'll ingest their data. We will chunk it up. We have, many Azure services that we're already using, but in particular, we're using OpenAI Omni inside of the Azure services, right? So that's a big Azure service that we use. And so we've got that large language model behind the scenes focused in on, let's say 1 million contracts from a customer, and being able to have the capability or feature that Omni is using, OpenAI Omni inside of Azure services, pointed to, I'm looking at this specific contract, and is there any ways that let's say opportunities to make this thing better? Leveraging that large language model in a safe environment like Microsoft with Azure services powered by, frankly, OpenAI Omni, which is a ChatGPT Omni, and then I'm just sitting in whatever front end I'm using, getting the power of that. So to me, it's going to come across as a feature and a capability. All that stuff's going on behind the scenes, grounded data, large language model. But it's just going to be, wow, that saved me a lot of time. It may have taken me 3 or 4 days to review that contract and find these clauses missing, and now it's going to come back in under a minute.
3 or 4 seconds.
And that. So that's it. Kind of going back to what we talked about, mailing that envelope around the global office, and it takes a week, and now it takes a minute. And I kind of feel that's where things are headed.
Yeah, and like this, you can also more chunk up the cost of it, right? Because when you use it as a feature, there are multiple entities who can use that same feature, and you can chunk up the cost, what makes it again affordable.
That's right. I think well said.
Yeah. When you think about your clients, would you say now is the time to start investing in Gen AI? Now it is already too late. You should have started, or wait, give it a moment. Maybe in half a year is when the market is in a position where it can really learn and really take advantage of Gen AI. Where are we, according to you?
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is I think early adopters are going to win out. I mean, at least you're learning, just like the model learns every day, with more data, you learn more. Same thing when you're doing search engines, right? You're crawling more data, getting more insights and driving it back, improving the model. Someone asked you, how do you become it was on a podcast once, and I don't remember exactly the source, so I hate to say that, but let's just say the question I remember them asking the participant was, hey, you want to build a clay pot? How do you become the world's greatest or really, really good at building a clay pot? And the person said, look, go make 10,000 of them, right? If you made 1 million of them, you're probably going to get better, right? So you kind of extrapolate. So you might as well start. I don't think there's a lot of downside in experimenting with it. You certainly want to be responsible in terms of the data that's there. Yeah. But I would not wait. I mean, you ease into it and try it, but you're going to find that it's just going to be there and not even know it. I mean, I used to drive a Tesla, and just the automate. It's just amazing to me to see how AI and the amount of data it takes for a car to drive itself in any way is just through the roof. But it's using AI, and so people are easing into it. They're feeling more comfortable. But I wouldn't wait. I mean, you can tiptoe into the journey, just making your daily, make your work-life balance more productive, checking your calendar and your email and doing those kinds of things. Why not? Writing Word documents or things, or, in office, and then outside and more of kind of a consumer play. We probably all use a search engine every day. We're finding AI inside of that. So
I'm sure we do.
To you, even if you don't want, but why not? I mean, again, I spend a lot of, I've spent time just looking at how other thought leader or other people are thinking about this space and learning so much from the dialogue. It's wonderful just to kind of absorb it.
Yeah. And that's a good one, right? Regardless if you actively decide or not, it will come to you. Maybe you're using already and you don't know about it. But I agree, right? It's better to really start with it now so that you can learn, that you can not only learn for the sake of learn, but that you can learn now so that you can use it productively and get a competitive advantage. Because from everything that I can see, this will, as you started out, this will revolutionize again our way of doing business across all the functions, because this is, again, like email, like the internet, something that will completely change the way we do business across everything. You've talked about, the genome sequencing. We talked about legal applications. We talked about HR. I'm not sure if anyone has found anything where Gen AI might not be a game changer today.
Yeah, it's just going to make life easier. I mean, in all these areas. And, you get into the specific use cases and you can see that. Going back to doing the tasks that I do every day, faster, better, more effective for me to free me up in what I'm going to do. And having that kind of agent philosophy. One of the things that we're looking at here, kind of Microsoft with the Viva suite, is I kind of look at the world in two ways. One is the workloads I do every day. Maybe I work in HR and I do work on benefits. I mean, it's going to help immensely there, just in terms of processing and doing the day to day. And I'm an employee interacting with my company. I just want to be more productive. And so submitting doing the basic things better, expense statements and, feedback and all the things that you do at every company as an employee, being able to just do those things more efficiently and better and serve yourself. I mean, it's still, I think the employee self-service is a never-ending challenge, and everybody wants that to be the case. The HR team will love the employees to kind of serve their own self and be happy with the correct answers and have guardrails in place. And the employee doesn't want to spend time and have to waste an HR person's time to get their question answered, right? So everybody wants that to happen. And now it's a matter of just putting the, steps in place, and AI is going to accelerate that. We've seen it. We closed over half of our employee requests using AI, and it's higher than that. And the model gets better every time, and it learns from the last one. You can adjust, and off you go, and it gets better and better, right? So we are on that journey.
We are very, very much still early in the game, and already you achieved so much with it. I'm not sure where we are in 2-3 years from now. It can only go up from here. So it's amazing. Still though, Jay, and I wonder what your experience is when you talk to other companies, to your clients. I've just recently read a McKinsey study that said only 12% of companies surveyed are actively using Gen AI in their HR departments today. To me, that doesn't sound like a big number. What do you see? Do you also see the 12%, or are you seeing more? Where is HR? What you can see?
Yeah, that's an interesting study. I've had the pleasure of talking to many HRIT leaders over the years. You know, the job that I've had here at Microsoft for many years, a few years ago, but I really enjoyed that. And I, some companies are more progressive and want to push, and others are more conservative. And I respect both. I think we're somewhere in the middle, is my opinion. Yeah. The applications they use to operate HR, the big ones out there, Workday, SuccessFactors, SAP, Oracle, somewhat Dynamics and things, you'll see AI there to make it happy. But 12% is an interesting number. I mean, I think they probably higher than that, but some are going to be pretty progressive. They just want the workloads they do to be done faster. 12% is a pretty low number, in my opinion, from what I've seen. But maybe I'm just talking to the customers who want to move a little faster. And so the people that I talk to are pushing harder to see AI save them time, save their employees time, and save the HR professionals inside their organization's time. And then that's where I spend a lot of cycles, is with them thinking through how to best do that. So in my opinion, it's much higher, but that's because my frame of reference is so small.
Maybe I'm in the same frame of reference, Jay, but I also feel like 12 seems too low. Yeah. My thinking is, going back to what you said earlier, maybe they are using it without knowing that they're using it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It comes as a feature.
That's right. Yeah, I talk to my kids. I mean, life without a phone, life before the internet. I lived that life. I was there. Yeah. I remember using the Netscape browser and talking to teams on Urbana. Like those days. Like, how can you? Like, kids look at me like they're teenagers. And they're like, how's it even possible, right? I mean, they just can't even process what life would be like there. And my parents talking to me typewriters were maybe the thing. I mean, just the progression, the step change that's happening, and now. It's definitely another step change. And so they're going to catch on quickly. Even if they're going to find the things the same solutions they use to kind of operate their function are just going to be easier, better, faster. Yeah. It's going to happen by those providers, be it Microsoft or whoever else, Workday, SuccessFactors, etc., Oracle. It's just going to be built into the system they use. So they will see it even if they don't want to.
If they don't want to, or if they don't know they're using it.
Yeah,
Jay, I was just thinking, it dates us again. But my kids are very similar in that stage, and we just recently told them that when my wife and I dated back then, I will not say how long ago that is.
Yeah,
she was in the phone booth to get a call from me.
Yeah. I remember.
Right. And our kids have no idea what a phone booth is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we went to England, to London, and they were a few along the street. Just the history of
the red ones,
London, England, UK, and then
what is that?
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure I look at my parents and the same thing. It's just generational, but things have accelerated so much, and the tech. I mean, it's amazing. It really is really amazing, and. We're going to find, when you're talking to someone on the phone to book your haircut or something, it may be AI behind the scenes doing the entire thing. You have no idea. So you're getting into that in the consumer space where it's like that. But those are the intelligent agents that just take tasks and do them more efficiently to free the human being up to do things they want to do, not things that they kind of have to.
Exactly. And let's look a bit from looking backwards. Let's look into the future. When you would say, the state of the HR department, the state of Gen AI in the HR department in 5 years, how would you see? What do you think will we have? If you would have to, just imagine how HR would work. What's the HR technology with Gen AI? What do you see? What can you imagine?
Yeah, great questions for sure. I think when it comes down to it, I hope the life of an employee just seems seamless and it's just, it's efficient. That when they work with HR, they don't really know that they're doing it. They're just doing their job and in the flow of work. they experience the company's HR team in a very seamless, behind the scenes way. I would love to see it kind of evolve to that, where it's just not even really an obvious event. But then for HR themselves, there's just workloads that I think AI will really accelerate that need that acceleration. You get into the big areas of massive amounts of data and processing, payroll. How do you determine, you think about how do you, comp structures and things, all of the sources of data that determine how you pay your employees, right? There's models, there's companies that have, there's payroll data you can bring in from payroll providers, there's surveys, there's just this big area, evaluating against your peers in the industry, et cetera. So there's a whole lot of modeling that can go into that. Why not have like dynamic pay? I mean, there's all kinds of areas that could kind of be interesting, but I think the biggest ones to me that I'd love to see improvement on is frankly around the whole area of benefits. I mean, all of the providers of benefits, all of the consumers of benefits that are part of corporate plans. I spend a lot of time processing benefits today, and paying providers and doing those kinds of things. It's a really complex space.
Yeah, it is.
Different in each country. There's different, there's different benefits plans. I mean, there's a whole lot of variables that make that a very complex task. I think we all would love to see that improve. So to me, that's a big one. And, I haven't seen anybody really scratch the surface on that so far, but I would love to see that in like the time frame you described, just to be as simple as the things that have happened in these other areas, the employee self-service. And then going into the other big domain area, which is recruiting, frankly, right? You have these open roles, having that intelligent agent that's out being, you have these executive recruiters that look after you as human beings. Why not have an agent that can do that too? And so that you're constantly having somebody, looking after you and your career and having that intelligent career guide and your resume, all the things that go into you as a person.
Idea.
Right?
Yes.
So those are the two big ones I would love to see see the world evolve to improve, particularly for the world of HR professionals.
I love that. I love especially this, your personal career guide. That's amazing.
Exactly.
You have your own coach. You have your personal HR back at work, regardless if you are, a senior or a more junior role. That's amazing. It can be a game changer.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Having that executive coach who you can bounce ideas off of. The agent knows your history, knows the things you like to do, right? Oh, here's some training you may want to
knows
take.
the open positions, knows the trainings.
Right. And just, you want to grow in this area. You want to learn about generative AI. Okay, here's 3, videos on YouTube that are free that you could watch. I noticed you like that. And here in Viva, I'm going to push that to you. I mean, it's all kinds of things you can do, but having that kind of virtual agent that's really looking after you and your career, that's persistent across, right? You move one company and go to another, it goes with you. Much like LinkedIn, your roving profile. What if you had a roving agent?
Amazing.
So that's how I kind of look at it.
Amazing. I didn't think about this. Yes, it can actually go with you, right? You can take your body of knowledge that it has already learned about you and take it with you to the next company.
That's
so
right,
it's wow.
Yeah. I mean, your certifications go with you. You are certified, right? It's not your company's, right? They go with you. You went to a university. And so why not? That goes with you. It gets better and better. Having that agent build you up and ongoing, it's a win-win. So the skills. I would love to see that because I've always valued talking to executive coaches and the value they provide, and having that, kind of be another opportunity would be, I think, helpful for all of us.
Yeah, and you can use it finally at scale, right? Because as much as I agree with you with a personal coach, with a career coach, there's only so much a career coach can do, and so many different coaches one can have. But if you use AI, it's an infinite number.
Right, crawling the world's data, you're probably going to have better opportunities, right? Reading the world's books. I mean, all the things that happen there. And having that corpus of data and that model to say, geez, what should I do next? Which is something I always think about, right? What should I be doing next? Where can I learn the most? Where could I contribute? And having, the power of 1 million coaches all within one agent for you would be pretty cool.
This is pretty cool. And you just blew my mind was thinking of, and you can take it with you, right?
Yeah,
I was always thinking confined in your current company. I get that. But that you take it with you, like you take your certifications with you. Just blew my mind. That's amazing. That's a great idea.
I think I mean, you don't get mind-wanded when you leave, right? That all goes with you. So, Jay,
did we just have our startup idea here?
There we go. Maybe. I'm definitely, this AI space is so exciting. I'm really thinking hard about startups right now. So
I haven't.
more to come on that, Volker.
Oh, definitely. I haven't heard that idea either. I haven't heard this anywhere, and it's just amazing. I'm pretty sure employees would pay for that.
I mean, the value it provide, I think would be pretty substantial. And, the monetization of all of this has unique ways to do it, but just showing value and growing the audience, you'll find ways to monetize. But that would be, I would use it right now, 100%. I'm ready for my next thing, and I would definitely use it. So, yeah.
Me too. Absolutely. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, I think there will be a follow-up, definitely.
All right.
But Jay, let's go back into the today. Let's go back into the today.
Yep.
When you think about Gen AI today, and let's continue to be in the space that you know very well, HR, legal.
Yeah.
What do you think are today the top 3 biggest challenges that you see, and how do you approach them?
Yeah, I still think the time that it takes for employees to get basic things done is too long. It takes too much time from those corporate functions to do that. And an HR professional doesn't want to answer the same benefits, what's my benefits plan or what's the holiday schedule? I mean, you think that's simplistic and resolved. It really hasn't been. I still think there's opportunity to automate as much of self-service as possible. So then you get into the generative, the transactional opportunities inside of HR, doing, the feedback and processing benefits that we just talked about a lot, applying for roles and being that career guide and coach. Those are things that there's teams inside of HR that focus in on that. I think we can automate a lot of that so that the employee just doesn't view the HR team as a group that, does the basics. It's really their kind of career coach, right? Like we talked about before. Yeah. So to me, I think that's kind of number one, intelligent answers to questions to free up people's time. I mean, I think then you get into other areas of HR. I do still think modeling inside of pay and comp is a big area of opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. But then creating generative, basic things like that we've done. We looked at data and I asked my engineering team, say, hey, look, what are employees, I view the customer of Microsoft, when they come to our HR web, our internal HR site, which most companies you'll find the HR website is the most visited site. You want to have a nice experience and kind of hide the complexity of the big SaaS system that uses to operate, right?
Yes.
Again, the Workday, the SuccessFactors, whatever it turns out to be. Employees don't want to navigate a 300-screen SaaS tool to change their whole admin, right? And so a really simple thing is, keep that there for the HR team to operate, but don't make your employees have to figure out how to navigate the screens to do something very simple. But anyway, going back to the point, so I asked them, let's look at the data. What are they coming there to do? Yeah. And we learned something that, we didn't know by looking at the data. They came there, to do basic things like, hey, I need to validate my employment for a loan I'm applying. Yeah. I still think that's another big area are very simple generative tasks, like create this travel letter, create an employment verification letter, something that employee needs. Inside of their, work life, or excuse me, the life outside of work, because they do have a work life that they just need to progress. And again, nobody in HR wants to spend time doing that, I'm sure.
There's no value add by a human.
No, and so that's kind of intelligent self-service and automating the things in more of a generative way. And it's stepping into it. It's still pretty early in the journey in terms of where AI is. You hear about all the cool things going on. But those two things I think would be helpful. And then I think, just finally getting into where are you going to spend time as HR professionals? Could I shift my time? I think, supporting HR in a way from an IT standpoint, just to give them more value. Going back to, we should be able to improve the development time of the solutions that we build by using AI. And so we should, behind the scenes, be using AI as technology professionals to make life easier for our HR colleagues. So that's how I kind of look at it.
Amazing. Jay, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Volker.
I cannot remember ever how 40 minutes went by so fast, but it was a really insightful, fun conversation. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you so much again, Volker. All right, be well. We'll talk soon.
And we have to focus on that startup.
Yeah,
that's something we have to do.
Startup's a lot of thought, I'll be honest. So stay tuned.
No, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Likewise, Volker. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Excellent.